Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Snell. I'm head of research at Rep Data, and I'm excited for this panel today. We've put together some leaders from the industry, both on the agency side and the brand side, to talk about this tension between speed and everything else. When is speed good? When is it bad? What are we sacrificing at the expense of speed? And so we've got a great panel, and I've asked each panelist to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Steve. I'm James Endersby, CEO of Opinium Research, insight agency based in New York, London, Amsterdam, Cape Town, and soon my friend Renata is from Sao Paulo, soon Sao Paulo too, which is exciting. We've just learned that about each other. Really grateful to have been invited onto this panel. I'm representing the insight agency in this very important discussion.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So, Renata Policicio, I lead research for streaming at Warner Brothers Discovery, so think HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Super excited about the discussion today, hopefully representing the client side and sharing that perspective. And yeah, from São Paulo, based in New York, but from Brazil.
Hey, everyone. My name is Alex Chu, director at NORC at the University of Chicago. Spent 20 plus years on the research agency side, so it was a big shift going to a nonprofit organization. We started Amerispeak, which is one of the largest probability-based panels. Really proud to also, we created a panel called Amplify AAPI, which is the first, only largest panel dedicated to the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. So glad to see you.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. And yeah, thanks for taking those emails and phone calls to get you here. So this is a fun group, very diverse background in terms of the kinds of work that you're doing. Whenever I talk to brands and agencies, I find out, though, that a lot of the pressures are in fact the same. And probably the biggest pressure is, we're trying to do more with less all the time. And on top of that, it needs to be faster. There's this expectation right now, I think, well, you can just AI it, right? So when we think about speed, where has speed actually been good for research? It can't all be just awful pressure. Where has it been good? Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Jump in. We got two microphones.
I think,
we're going to share.
Yeah, I mean, technology has been fantastic, of course, in creating the speed that was very much needed by the stakeholders that insight agencies and insight teams both share. I think using that technology during the research process has been fantastic to speed things up. But what are we doing with that speed is all that time saved? I think that's the most important thing to talk about. Obviously, we want to hand a lot of that back to the client side, to the stakeholders, get it to them as quickly as possible to get that competitive advantage. But I think we also need to make sure that we retain some of that speed, some of that time to put it into that human element, the analysis obviously, but actually the setup before the project begins. I think that's time well spent. We don't want to rush that. We really don't want to rush that. And we definitely don't want to rush the analysis, etc. So that's my take on it.
Love it. Saving time for the human expertise and the strategic take. But on the client side, I think where agility and speed helps is we are able to influence more decisions. And I always say for me, research is about impact, is about being actionable, is about really answering a business question. And not that long ago, some business decisions were made without a consumer perspective, or maybe not, a precise consumer perspective. Maybe we have the answer, but maybe we have an old answer or half of the answer, and we didn't have time to really go and talk to consumers again. So that's where I think for me, on the client side, the biggest benefit is really being able to answer more questions. And in my world, decisions are very fast, right? Questions come fast and decisions happen even faster. So agility really helps us being more impactful, really being able to influence more of those decisions.
I was on a client-side insights team not long ago, and it didn't move very fast. And you know what happened at the next riff? Everybody went, right? So that ability to impact decisions and do it quickly is necessary for survival. Yeah. Alex.
Yeah, from on our side, we're doing everything from this taking the questionnaire survey program. I think the biggest win wasn't speed, but it got rid of the frictions that we had in that whole process. Right, it made us become more efficient. Whether it was administrative or operational, we implemented tools that allowed us to communicate faster, and other tools that kind of benchmarked if there were issues for new employees as we grew to come in and like, oh, here's problem solving versus when we went from a group of 5 to 100, you're communicating through emails, and that's not efficient when you're a group of 100 now.
So what's the primary drawback to speed? I mean, we're pro speed. We want to be clear. Rep Data has a platform now. Like we want to help people move quickly. What's the primary trade-off for you, Alex?
Yeah, you're gonna. I think we both agree on this. You're gonna from a group that deals primarily with academics and government, and I mentioned before our probability sample. Speed can never come at the expense of rigor, and I'll say rigor, quality, 100 times, and that's what's happening. A lot of our clients, are government, so it's a slower pace than others. But I think with AI and synthetics, there's like let's pump the brakes a little, and fast data is good, but if it's based on bad data, bad quality, then what's the point?
Renata, que tu achas?
Portuguese. The bad side is that my stakeholders think everything can be made very fast. So I see a lot of nods. Yeah. So it's really on us to really educate and show them that some things you cannot do it so fast, and there are trade-offs. We are always trying to, what we can do with the time that we have. It's not perfect, but what can we do that is just good enough? But then there is just this expectation that everything can be done real fast.
Yeah, dangerous.
Yeah. And I think in strong insight teams, hopefully also supported by strong agencies, it's very important to explain to those stakeholders to take the time that, this is the trade-off, and so that those stakeholders are completely aware, and that increases trust as well, which I know we're going to get onto.
I think one of the thoughts when we're moving quickly is, and I think, Alex, you touched on this, maybe we lose some rigor, and the way that we translate that in a more commercial sense, right, is maybe we lose some accuracy, some precision. And so fast research, maybe it won't be precise, but sometimes we use the term directionally accurate. Is directionally accurate okay sometimes? When is it okay? When is it not okay?
A great question. I think absolutely it depends on the circumstances. So if your team internally is looking to decide between 2 campaigns by the end of the week, they're pretty similar, they need a quick steer, of course, that's a really obvious example. Let's go with speed, okay, and maybe a bit of directionality. But what if it's a $20 million advertising budget or a new pricing structure or a new strategy? Obviously, that needs to have a lot more rigor.
So that's a great question. It's the $1 million question, right? I think a lot of times directionally is better than nothing, but not every time. I always say that a research team, all we have is credibility. The moment we start, sharing insights, numbers, data that prove wrong or help leadership make a bad decision, that's the end. So I think it's very hard for teams to understand, okay, something fast is better than nothing, but in some cases, nothing is better because I am actually going to be misguiding an important decision. So it's on us, and our stakeholders don't like that. They really don't. They're like, no. But sometimes we have to say, listen, there's nothing that I can give you that I trust enough to inform this decision. So really, in this case, nothing is better than something directionally. But most of the times we are able to find something that is directionally, okay or enough, but sometimes nothing is better than.
It reminds me of trying to explain sometimes the margin of error to stakeholders. And Alex, I imagine, you're working with a different set of stakeholders, and maybe they're a little bit more sophisticated in that regard, but people are so desperate for is it A or B sometimes? And we're like, well, it's equally A and B maybe, and there's a 5-point gap, but that might not be significant because it's 300 respondents. I mean, how do you approach this?
I mean, when we're working with academics and government, there's policies that are going to take place that will affect the country, the world, right? So their directional will not fly. But I think the problem, and when I was on the private sector side, I think the, directional is okay, but it's bad when directional is assumed to be precise, and clients will do that sometimes. So I think it's important for there to be an honest and transparent conversation. Like, this is directional. You cannot turn that number into something you're going to make major policy decisions or marketing decisions.
And that reminds me, just thinking about my other former life doing public opinion and things, is a lot of times where things really break down is maybe you're directionally accurate, maybe you're actually precise for the population, but then you want to drill down into subgroups and you want to look at this cross section of 2 or 3 variables and differences there, and we end up in kind of a dicey area. And I wanted to ask you, is there an example of research that on its face looked right, but as you drill down, it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, or it was just wrong? I mean, Renata, this is the disaster situation, right? Where someone wants it fast and you kind of are over a barrel, so to speak, and it's like, ugh. I mean, have you had such a situation? Not your team, certainly, but have you seen this happen? And what's the cause? Was it just fast and sloppy? Was it someone making a decision that they shouldn't have? What leads to these sorts of decisions?
Want to jump in?
I can
Go for it.
Anyone.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. I mean, this recently happened. Sometimes
On another team.
On another team, not ours. No, definitely not ours. To be faster, quicker, they wanted to run a study on Hispanics and Asian and NHPI population just online and in English only. We got the data back, and sometimes, like with AI and everything, like you need to have critical thinking, and something looked off. We later ran it in language, in Spanish, and then multiple languages for the NHPI community, and the numbers came back much different because we ran it through telephone, online, and did it in language. Again, NHPIs are a group that are majority immigrants, first generation. So English is not their first language. So if you're only doing English, you're not getting a representative read. So that's not our company though. But
Not yours.
And also now with my team, the
Yeah,
example
totally.
that I'm going to give. And more, like, listen, over 2 decades doing this, so more than a couple of times, our decision is always, so just to start, what happened is just we didn't have time to get good sample. Like the sample, we had a couple hundred cases, but data was, the sample was really not representing the group. It was clear.
Is it because it was a narrow audience, or what was the?
It was a narrow audience. Yeah. I'm thinking about a recent example. It was a very narrow audience, to be fair, and leadership was pushing, and my decision was, sorry, we have to do it again, and we're going to need more time. No, but I want to see the data. Not going to see the data. No, because I know my stakeholders, and not my stakeholders, guys. Sorry, not talking about mine.
These stakeholders. We get it.
I know stakeholders.
You know how they work.
And they want to see the data because they want to believe that the data is directionally correct. And I knew we was not even directionally correct. And I was really worried that they were going to make a decision based on bad data. So I just told our president, I said, hey, you hired me, you pay my salary to do this. I'm telling you, this is not good data. I'm not even going to share. But it's hard. It's hard because some stakeholders don't really, they keep pushing and they want to even see bad data. So that happens.
James, if you were looking at another agency and they had a problem, what might it be from?
Just to be clear, this has never happened at Opinium. No, we had one, seeing that you're pushing me on this one, anonymous client, very big client, financial services client, and very senior director. One of her team had run something quite quickly. They were going for directional self-service platform, but this experienced insight director, just something was off when she looked at the data. And that's why we need experienced insight people in our sector. We need to hold on to them, we need to grow them, we need to keep championing them. But she just knew something was off, and so she sent this stuff to us. We had to review it. Speed obviously went out the window at that point. And yeah, we found it wasn't set up correctly. I'm not going to go into too much detail here to sync it, but same example, really. But yeah, I guess they lived and learned on that one.
I think when we talk about tech and innovation and AI, we've talked about some of the concerns, moving too fast, having data that doesn't look right, or that looks right, maybe that's worse at first and then isn't. If we switch gears a little bit and think about where does technology, innovation, AI even, make you more confident? Where is it in the research process? Is it in the front end, the back end? Is it analysis? Where can AI, or even just tech more generally, increase your confidence in your decision making, in your data quality, whatever?
You guys happy? I think for us anyway, I want to talk about data quality here. And data quality is one of the biggest issues and opportunities we're looking at in our sector right now. And it's used across the whole research process, of course, fraud detection and all of the things that we look at. But one particular piece I want to talk about is data quality. And obviously, data quality is not just a one-hit solution. You need a data quality stack. It starts with the questionnaire, of course, and that's another conversation around training and everything else, of course, and fraud detection. But it's data quality and data cleaning that I want to talk about here, and that's where technology can really make a big difference. So the previous way that at Opinium we've done it is data cleaning at the end of field work, right? And that takes a bit of time, very strict protocols, and we get some really good clean data. But that takes time. So this goes into speed too. But working with you guys at REDEM, we've now implemented your technology that cleans as the survey is taking place during field work. So participants come in, of course there's all the checks, but of course we know these days they can get through these things. But and then of course they could just be having an off day. Maybe they're rushing off to go to the cinema. They're in New York, and they need to go to watch Cats or, I don't know, Lion King or something. Odyssey at IMAX. You can't even get tickets,
right,
apparently.
That's right. It'll be there.
Fair enough. Okay, good. Damn it. So you know what I'm saying.
It's an
and this tech really does help. It helps. The fieldwork is the fieldwork period. Of course, we're following it, we're monitoring it. It sets those participants aside based on the quality. Anyway, I feel like I'm doing an advertorial here, but that's what we certainly like and are working with using tech to help quality.
Perfect. Hey, Nata, same thing. Where is it less about speed and where can it actually make you confident?
I 100% agree that's data quality. 100% agree that is really that phase in the process that is data cleaning and quality control is 100% where it can help us be more confident. It can add speed at other pieces. Another part is we use a lot of automation to create dashboards, so it's easier for our stakeholders to visualize, and they don't even have to come to us. In a click, they get what they need. But in terms of being more confident, it's 100% data quality. 100% agree.
Interesting. Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, real quick, the data quality aspect, when I'm having my teams use AI, it's great for that data quality aspect. We just want to, we make it sure that the first line of defense or checking quality is the human eye, right? And maybe even the second one, and then AI is that third. So, we have agreements with our clients. It's never only AI, or it's never just, it's the first, it's the last, and it does great for that job. And then when we're designing questionnaires, using the AI to come up with attributes when you're creating a survey. In the past, that might have been something we would have to do a quick qual thing. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do qual anymore, but it does help for topics that you may not be as familiar with to create an attribute list, whereas in the past would have taken a longer time.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks in the Quirks that can help you do qual with AI. So it's just throw a rock and you'll hit one. I would say, with this moving from speed to confidence, I'm a recovering academic, a survey methodologist, and a lot of people get excited about surveys being written by AI, and it makes me a little scared. Like, I'm trying to hold on to my hat because I think we're using very generalized models to write surveys. But I've seen some really bad surveys too, and I think some people would do well to have AI take a first crack at their survey, especially if we can train the AI to write a better survey, because there are a lot of people that write bad surveys. If it has a whole bunch of long grids, you've written a bad survey. If it has 12 open-ends, you've probably written a bad survey. And so that's an area where I think that AI maybe isn't quite there yet. Tech isn't there yet, writing your survey, but maybe it'll get there. And so I wanted to ask, there are a lot of entrepreneurs here. Maybe it's not current state, future state. What would you like to see tech do, AI do, to improve the research process, make it better, faster, maybe cheaper, maybe not? What would you like to see? What's the gap that you think tech could potentially fill for you? Any thoughts? Hinata?
Yeah, I can start. Honestly, I think throughout the whole process of research AI, and when I say AI, but I also mean automation, because honestly,
Sure.
There is so much that before AI became a thing existed, and now it's just labeled AI, right? That we already used from an automation perspective. So I'm really hopeful that it can help us throughout the whole process. Efficiencies, especially in the beginning, but also really augment and enhance what we can do. But to your point, I think we need, bad data in, bad data out. We need
Sure.
to train the models a lot. From writing surveys to, doing qual to synthetic sample. I think we are experimenting a lot. We're doing a lot of testing. And we are finding out that, some tools do an okay job.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of nuance. It's not black and white. It's very gray, especially the kind of work that we do. HBO is all about, if you think about HBO content, AI does a good job if you're trying to understand something that is very mainstream and very we do stuff that are at the extremes. We want to move you. We want you to make you laugh or make you cry. So there is a lot that AI still cannot do. Even writing a questionnaire, to use your example, our questionnaires are not your run-of-the-mill questionnaires,
Sure.
because we are trying to capture something that is, I don't want to use extreme again, but it's particular, because we're testing a show, we're testing a campaign. So I think AI is doing an okay job here, but there is still a lot of work to really be more confident in every stage of the process.
Perfect. James, what's that gap we can fill for you? What's the pain point that
I don't know.
we want to know?
Something around synthesis at the end of projects. I mean, as we know, the client side is sitting on more data than they've ever in the history of everything, and that data is coming from everywhere. So something that can bring that all. I know there's some companies working on that, but I think I'd love to see a bit more of that. So you can bring in obviously the primary insight data that's coming through, behavioral data, sales, demand, all that stuff. I think that would be really interesting. And then you get the consultants like us and insight teams really being able to use that and bring out real insights, even better insights, more relevant insights, especially with the behavioral stuff, I think.
I love that, because I think about that as really extending the shelf life of the research that we're all doing, and knowing that we can go back and mine it and speak to our, aggregated data set in a way that, maybe the desk research isn't asking AI, it's asking AI to look at all of our data that we have.
You get that more organizational culture around it as well then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Alex?
Just to go back from the questionnaires and survey report, I think AI is great right now, but it still has a long way to go. I mean, I recently tried to write a survey, and it's almost reminded me of like SPSS back in the day. Like, you put something in, it's going to give you something. Is it right? Maybe, probably not. Depends on how you do it. And I'm still at the point where it's like, the scales that it gave me were not like the perfect scales, and that was probably my fault. I'm still getting used to, like, was my prompt not good enough, right? If I had a better prompt, would it have done this? So it's a user piece, but also like how could you build more confidence in the AI to eventually get there?
We're kind of about at the end, especially I'd love to hear if there's a question or two from the audience. So just to wrap things up, what would you say that research teams, be they brand side, agency side, academic, government, what should they maybe do differently, or what should they always do, to preserve confidence in this era of speed and technology and moving faster and doing more with less? What should they always do? What should they do differently? Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe get on my soapbox. But, at APOR this year, I was glad they said that AI should not be used to represent underrepresented groups. And, I'll speak for all underrepresented groups here, but for what I'm doing for Amplify API for the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community. The reason why we built this panel, because there's not enough real data on Asian Americans in this country. So there's a lack of real data. What is synthetics? What is AI taking it from? You're perpetuating stereotypes, misrepresentation, and that's very dangerous. So, my advice is that's when it comes to quality, that's one of the most important things, because whether you're marketing or there's policies, you want to have truly high quality and representation, and that's not happening right now.
And I love that because you're doing sort of demography and public opinion, and so you think about small groups in terms of representation. But in a lot of the work we do, there's a lot of small populations that we try to extend artificially, and we have to be careful. What are the data sets that we are extending? How big is this population, and can we reliably do that? Renata, what do you think?
I think we're still in a moment where the human expertise needs to be on top of everything, right? So from checking your survey to, in everything. So I think researchers have to be open to new tech, and especially AI, but cannot unplug and really just, I said it in the beginning, I'll say it again, credibility is all that we have. So I keep telling my team, you cannot just get something that an AI model spit out and send it to stakeholders. And it sounds obvious, but when you are in a crazy day-to-day, in a rush, we still see a lot of, there's a lot of hallucination still. So that's one. And the second piece, I think the most important one, is AI cannot make your insight actionable for your specific business. So where we really add value is, okay, how do I translate this to something that my stakeholder, my leadership can immediately act on? I always say interesting is not enough. It has to be actionable. So that's what we always have to do. Coming from AI or not, our responsibility is to make sure that we get what we listen from consumers, from AI, and make sense of it for the business.
Perfect.
Thanks. I think for me, repeating what I said earlier, speed does not necessarily translate into great business decisions. I think that's something we need to keep mentioning. And then I think picking up on where we need to preserve in 3 places. Take that speed and double down on consultants, internally, agencies, everywhere. Consultants at the start of the project, framing it correctly, ask the wrong question, and off we go, right, in the wrong direction. That time is really precious to understand the brief. What does that stakeholder really want? Often it's a rushed, I need this. Let's sit down, let's preserve that time. The analysis, okay, we've sped everything up. It's all beautiful. The data quality is amazing. We use these guys, they're phenomenal. Now we're at the analysis phase. We need that time. The consultants need to get stuck into that data. We have to preserve that time. We have to push back if possible, obviously. This is all hypothetical, of course, if you need it tomorrow. But and then the final bit, which we sort of talked about, is that third bit where the humans really do need to step up. And AI is great, but it can't understand the insecurities in a boardroom. Can't understand the corporate objectives for the next quarter and all of those things. And so that's where we need that time. And agencies can support their clients, of course, but the insight teams really need that time to help land, as you said, land the insights with impact. And that's only if we take that time and preserve that time. So that's what we should be running outside and beating our drums all about.
Perfect. Thank you all. I just want to say, to wrap things up, we're Rep Data, and because of the minutia of an acquisition, we have 2 booths here. So we have one here, and then we're also in this annex, and in the annex has, I think, soft pretzels and Diet Coke. So that's the better booth. So join me for a Diet Coke. We've got... Yeah, it's about 5 degrees cooler, maybe 10. And we've got some sunglasses over there, so come in and say hello. We're about out of time, so find our panelists in a cooler venue and ask them your very cool question. Thank you for being with us, and thank you all for coming.